sänd live och inte nu, utan nu.
Would you like me to introduce Indigo Flamingo, or would you like me to hand over to you for that?
Nej, ska du göra? Behöver jag, för där är den.
I think you will do a wonderful job, kid.
Det här är Facebook.
Oh my god!
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
check,
right.
check it out. Full TV
Jesus,
production.
I was not expecting this. It's like, I don't know, some morning talk show or something.
Yeah.
Or like late night show, I guess.
Well,
Jesus.
late night dance.
You thought you were here for a live podcast, but actually
Exactly.
So you just met, I guess. In
we met with Jonna watching me struggle to remember my code to get in the door.
The best way to meet. Yeah. So, Jonna, this is Celine.
Hey.
Hej,
Jonna.
Hej hej, everyone.
Jonna. Hej.
Välkommen. Så det är
I'm
bara
thinking
slå
as
in
far
här.
in as possible.
We're getting cozy. Yeah.
Hur tjusigt det var här.
Ja, det kan vi göra.
So you two over there, right?
Yes. Yes.
Så...
We'll get it.
It was so nice I had to put more lipstick on.
You look great. Do I need to hide that? Do I need to bring it through?
I don't know if it's gonna show up, but yeah, that would be
I think that would be best.
nice. Yeah. This is
I'm gonna take it off. I'm sure I'll be warm in a minute.
Yeah, these lights.
Yeah.
Something.
vi kan ta den från det hållet kanske.
Ja, jag ska bara ligga.
Cool.
Hello. Blah 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 blah. Can I check? How do I pronounce your full name properly?
When I lived in the UK, I always tell people it's like Donna with a Y. Jonna.
Yeah, Jonna,
Jonna.
but then Blode,
Yeah?
Hanno.
Yeah. I would just
Jonna
go
Blode.
Jonna Blode Hanno.
Okay.
Jonna,
Do
and you can say it
British.
quite quick.
So this is Jonna Blode Hanno.
Perfect.
And Gwyn
Got it.
Emberton.
Keep on.
Bryn.
Keep on.
Do you want me to hide it? Put it in.
Have I hit my? Is it too
Oh.
cold?
It's a bit.
Let's see. So these are very sensitive, so I'll try to put it in ways so it won't touch
Mm.
your...
I'll try not to clutch my pearls. Where in the UK do you live? Because you've got a very good accent.
But she went to
Thank
drama
you.
school in
Oh.
Yes.
Which
that's-
drama school?
Lambda.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So they taught me how to speak properly. But yes, I lived in London for 7 years, so it's quite a long time.
How long have you been back here? Are you from Malmö originally?
No, I'm from Stockholm, but I came back pandemic, so I guess it's 4 years now.
Mm.
Yeah, it's 4 years. Crazy. Time flies. Yeah.
Shall I talk through what we
That'd
might
be
talk
really
about?
good.
Go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, is it like first I'll be like, welcome, blah blah blah, introduce the episode, and then I'll introduce my guests. I have little bios.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
See, I'm putting more makeup on because I'm like, these
Right,
lights
please.
are so professional. Oh my god, of course.
so I'm going to describe you. I think Gwyn kind of heard what I will say.
Yeah.
Jonna, I'm going to say. Shall I say that you're also called Mother Mermaid? I don't know. It feels like a little tidbit.
If you want to. I don't mind.
But I've described you as an
I
actor,
don't.
producer, and organizer of Malmö's
Mhm.
queer club night and performance event, Club Mermaid.
Yes, that's fair.
Yep. And then
Okay.
I've taken the
So
bio,
LinkedIn I
the
found it.
description of Club Mermaid from your
Mhm.
website.
Wow,
First
you've
up,
done your
yeah.
research.
I have.
Wow.
Var du ny eller?
And anything else I should say? I'm also going to say you're producing a day of Malmö Pride focused on Malmö's queer past, present, and future.
Yes.
I don't know that as a title.
I think local pride
Local Pride, yeah.
or Malmö pride,
Malmö Pride.
because it's local pride, global pride, and essence of pride.
And then, introduce Gwyn, introduce Indigo Flamingo, so there's a lot of introductions to do. And then I think I'm going to just kind of ask for, like, what was the initial thought behind Indigo Flamingo? So, like, yeah.
They told us about it in the meeting. It sounds amazing. I'm so excited.
We're having a lot of fun making it, I have to say.
bet.
So much. And then I think I'll go to you, Jonna, and
Mhm.
I'll also ask you about the genesis of Club Mermaid, like
Mhm.
how you arrived there.
Mhm.
I listened to a podcast that you did with
Oh my
Jonna.
god!
I found out you were a nail artist.
Yes.
I love that.
Oh my god! You've really done your
Look
research.
out! If you need to,
Yeah.
if you need to stalk anyone, Kit is the.
I've got all the
Oh my nose.
Well, that's terrible.
God.
Then, this might be, it's quite a broad question, but I'm going to
Mhm.
say, like, we're talking about queer culture.
Mhm.
Like, what does that represent for you? Like, and I'm thinking to go, and I'm going to say we're not giving an academic definition. It's like, what are the reference points that you're working with in terms of queer culture? Does this sound horrible?
A little bit.
Okay. Goodbye that question.
I mean,
Maybe it's just.
I think I can answer it, but I will be like, I can't define. I don't know if that's up to me for me to say or whatever. But for me personally, like this is what I try to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I could.
I think
Take
that
a more
would be a nice
personal
perspective.
rather
Maybe
than
queer
like-
culture for you.
Yeah, I think queer culture, I think it's saying we can't harness the queer culture, resist definition, it's such a broad
Mm.
concept, but you're both producing events that
Yeah.
are
Within this.
focusing
sphere.
on queer culture, so we're like, what kind of reference points can we give? Like,
Yeah.
what are we talking about when we talk about
Mhm.
queer
Yeah.
culture?
Yeah.
And what are we not talking about? You know, Indigo Flamingo's not referencing boring culture, for example.
Mm.
It's like this kind
Mm.
of thing.
Mm.
And I think to say I couldn't possibly define it,
Yeah.
so fine.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then I'm going to say you've both been on a kind of process of looking at Malmö's queer history,
Mhm.
and maybe just to talk about, like, why do you feel it's important that we look at
Mm.
our shared history,
Mm.
and also to ask if there's any, like, things that have stood out from your research, like things learned, like what's come up in this, themes that have come from the conversations you've had.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that feel okay?
That feels
Yeah.
grand.
Great. And then to go into more specifics of, like, now, so this will be very much for Gwyn, is like, how are these stories that you've gathered and these themes that you've gathered, how are they manifesting in the performance or the event? Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we can cover the set, the music, the not characters,
Yeah.
stories, and then we can talk a bit about, you know, like, how do you handle using someone's story?
Yeah.
And you can say that it's not,
So,
all these kind of things.
Yeah.
And then also for you, Gwyn, then to say that this is very much going to be a new kind of experience that we're presenting here for
Yeah.
many of the audience.
Yeah.
So, like, what kind of experience is that? How should people navigate it? What should they expect?
Yeah.
And then I'd like to talk a bit about the queer scene in Malmö. So, like, what's the present? What's kind of the lay of the land now? What does Malmö's queer scene have going for it? I think there's a lot of people you work with and collaborate with and know. And then maybe talk about Club Mermaid, like, what do you want people to feel at a Club Mermaid event? What are you trying to do there? And then also to talk a bit about Malmö Pride, like, how is your research coordination meetings, like what kind of program should we expect on the Wednesday?
Mhm.
Am I right? And then we plug all the events. 30th to 11th of July, 5th of July Club Mermaid,
Yes.
and 3rd to the 6th of July Monarch Pride. And we see if there's audience questions, and if not,
Oh my god, people are watching it live, sending in questions sometimes.
Yeah, there will be from Instagram and Facebook if we manage, and YouTube. So we will see.
There's no editing.
No.
Yeah, I was so scared when you said it was live. I was like, oh my god.
There's no editing.
Can I just
Yes.
switch your this?
Är du redo nu? Kan du se på Instagram också?
You don't have my shoes in the shot, right? Because these are really, they need a wash. And I think I probably keep my feet on the floor.
Yeah, this is incredible. I was not expecting this setup. Wow. Do you do this every week?
No.
No.
Every day.
Just
No,
every
this
day
is
I
our
come here and
second
just chat. This is
live
my
podcast.
living room.
Yeah, it's so nicely set up. It looks like there's a lot of time and
Yeah.
energy put into it.
It's fun. If it works.
Is it okay me here? Like, should we, can I be like this? 'Cause it feels a bit weird to sit back.
Yeah.
That's a Qarl question, but it is how they sit because of the cameras. If they
'Cause I
can sit.
You know,
really,
if I go a bit more like
really
this.
like to have a conversation. Like, yeah,
Mm.
And which persona will we put on now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine. You can.
Does that feel
sit down.
okay?
Yes, it feels
It would-
exciting.
Yeah,
I
we're just
don't
gonna
I don't want to terrify you. I
Yes.
don't want to throw you curveballs.
Yeah.
If something's horrible, you just say,
Yeah, I'm
say,
mostly
wow,
like-
that's a horrible
yeah,
question, kid.
Yeah.
Let's give it
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can tease me.
Yeah. And if I waffle,
Nej,
please.
jag ska inte göra på något ställe nu.
And you're also free if you get intrigued by
Okay,
each other's
so-
Yeah,
jokes.
yeah,
You can
great.
take over as well if you.
3 minutes.
So you were asking about what?
How they're sitting, if it's okay for them
Yeah,
to
can we
sit.
be more like this
Yes, of course.
than
Mm.
like this?
Yeah, no, I think you could be. It's probably more natural.
Rotate a bit.
Your shoes will be. I will be seeing them, however you do it, but not in all the shots, of course.
I'll take my
Oh my
shoes
god,
off.
they're set. Oh my god,
No,
yes, they're wrong.
have your shoes on.
How much she's on?
Yeah, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And which camera do they start in, so Kit knows which camera if you wanna do the introduction?
Cameras.
I
Can I have a prompter?
We do have one.
Sorry, where's makeup?
So
Yeah, we forgot about the makeup.
I think we can start in this one, but the one with Instagram will always be this one.
Okay.
So, but doesn't really matter.
So
No.
I just talked to the one furthest that side. If I talk to the.
I'm gonna put I have it on do not disturb.
Oh, wait,
no,
wait.
I can't do that. Never mind. I have it on
What
do
did
not
you want?
disturb. I was just gonna put my phone on flight
Do you
mode.
want?
But I have it on do not disturb. It's probably fine. But then I was like, this is so much happening. Even.
Okay, so there's.
How do we know when we go live?
Oh my god, it's awesome.
Yeah,
We go live very soon.
very soon. We will tell you.
What is it? Is it live
It's,
now?
yeah,
It's
it's-
live
Oh, no.
soon. We can go live anytime we want now.
Yeah.
So should we start? Okay.
Yes.
I will play the
The
intro.
theme tune.
Oh my god, there's
And then will you give me a sign?
Yep. And then we will start it now then. No? Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so I need to
Welcome to Dance Pod with Skånes Dansteater, a podcast brought to you by Sweden's largest independent dance institution. Your chance to hear from dance artists, engage with movement, and delve deeper into our creative process. Hello and welcome to this very special live streamed episode of Dance Pod with Skånes Dansteater. Or I guess a normal episode if you're just listening on Spotify or podcasts. I am Kit Brown. I use he, him pronouns, and I will be the host today. I'm a dancer here at Skånes Dansteater, and I'm also a board member of Malmö Pride, which I say just because it's going to be relevant to the conversation we're going to have. Today is a very special conversation for me. It's very near and dear to my heart. It's a discussion of a piece and a project that I've been working with as a dancer, Indigo Flamingo, and also a wider discussion around queer community and Malmö's queer past, present and future. Now, in order to have that conversation, I have invited two guests who I will introduce to you right now, and they are smiling at me very broadly. I like that. That's a good start. So first up, we have Gwyn Emberton. Hi, Gwyn.
Hi, Kit.
How are you?
I'm really good. How are you?
Good. Very well, thank you. So Gwyn is a dancer, a choreographer, a teacher and a dramaturg with over 20 years of experience. He's also the artistic director of Wales-based dance company, Jones the Dance. And he's also based here in Malmö and is currently working with Skånes Dansteater on Indigo Flamingo as the choreographer. Now Gwyn's choreographic work, it sits somewhere between contemporary dance and dance theatre, telling stories found in the bodies of the people doing it. And it often blurs the lines between performer and audience, which I think is particularly relevant for what we're going to talk about today. So again, welcome, Gwyn.
Thanks, Kit.
And then also we have here Jonna Blode Hanno, known to some people as Mother Mermaid, I believe, which is a great name, I think. Jonna is an actor, a producer, and the organizer of Malmö's queer club night and performance event, Club Mermaid. She's also currently working as a producer at Malmö Pride and producing a day of events focused around Malmö's queer past, present, and future, local pride. And a little bit about Club Mermaid, I think. So it was founded in 2022 and has, I think, very quickly become an integral part of Malmö's queer scene. It's really been received with a lot of love and loyalty, I think. And it's a performance night and a club night happening once a month at Qunt currently. Where drag performers and other queer performers come and develop their artistic range and their drag, and each night is based around a certain theme which you choose, and then the artist can respond to that however they want, so through stand-up, singing, dance, performance art, I guess, whatever. Yeah. Did I miss anything?
No, that was lovely. It's so nice. It's weird having someone else talk about what you've done and stuff. It's really nice. Yeah, no, it was brilliant.
It was a pleasure looking into it as well. We're going to go straight into the conversation. I kind of wanted to have you two here as a slight departure from our normal format of maybe just talking to a choreographer. So that we could really expand on the themes that are part of Indigo Flamingo and highlight the kind of parallel processes you've had in different ways and with very different manifestations. And I should definitely introduce Indigo Flamingo. There is a lot of introductions. And Indigo Flamingo is kind of two things. It's one thing, but it's two phases of a project where For the last year, you and Skånes Dansteater and Malmö Pride have been running monthly workshops for the queer community, led by different queer dance teachers and others, including kind of workshops in voguing, musical theatre, queer belly dance, poetry readings, kind of everything.
Yeah.
And those have really been a space where the community can come and share their experiences, dance together, and then some of those people have met you further for interviews that kind of reflect on their lives as queer people in Malmö.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a community project and also a research phase for what was the second phase of Indigo Flamingo. And that's what we're working on currently and what we're going to talk about. And Indigo Flamingo is our new immersive show here at Skånes Dansteater. It has 5 performances between the 3rd to the 11th of July, coinciding with Malmö Pride on the 3rd to the 6th of July. I've learned my dates. And in that show, you're going to be led by our host and DJ, the drag king, Qunt, who's going to invite you to step into a kind of dreamlike clubland, filled with all these highs and lows and memories and ideas appearing out of the dance floor itself. It's a celebration of community. It's a 2-hour interactive show where you can become part of the story or just sit back and enjoy the ride. And it's going to be a party. It's going to have a set list from club classics to 70s disco to Schlager, all things that have been suggested by the community and some extras, and just a lot of dancing.
That's a very good description. Well done, Ken.
Comprehensive. So now you know what Indigo Flamingo is.
Sounds amazing.
And I would love to ask you, Gwyn, about where did this idea come from? What was the initial impulse to start this project, this year-long project?
Yeah. I was asked by Mira, director, here to... We'd been working on a couple of projects already, working with communities in different ways. And Mira proposed that I would make or asked me to make a proposal on a community-based or a project with a community, with dancers from the company. And I believe that making work with the community, you kind of need to be rooted somehow in it. But being new to Malmö, I arrived in Malmö at the beginning of the pandemic. And the 2 communities that I am most in touch with are dance and the LGBTQIA+ community. And it sort of felt like those 2 things, dance and queer bodies, culture, kind of fit quite nicely together. And they felt much more where I was, rather than trying to launch into a new community. There was a lot of shared understanding already, or there was a lot of curiosity, there was a lot of openness from my part. So that's kind of where that started. Creating the balance between what working with the community and working with the dancers in the company, and how those 2 things come together. So this idea of the 2 parts was that creating a space for the community to come into this institution, to come into the building for the queer community around the thing that we do, so which is dance, but also inviting local queer dance artists to lead and share their practices was also really important, and opening that space between, opening the building to that to our community that we're in. And then out of that also I was reading, I was working on World Pride as a producer in 21 here in Malmö, and my impression of Malmö's queer community at that point was that it was very dispersed, obviously because we were in the pandemic. But there was a book that was a collection of writings, the Queer History of Malmö, and so I was translating it badly on Google Translate and reading it, so that kind of informed some of it, and I was really curious, and I'm really a bit of a history geek, and it was sort of a way of me connecting with Malmö and with the communities that I'm in, and so that was part of that, and then thinking about those people that were in it as well, that make up the community, and that's where meeting people in the community and part of that research of having these conversations that they become with different members of the community about their experiences of being in Malmö, whether they've been here for 60 years or they've been here for 3 years. So there's a real range. So yeah, I think I've just kind of gone off. Was that?
No, that was,
Great.
that was definitely a good answer. Yeah, and I guess there was this importance of offering something as well as, doing the work that we do often, which creating a production, but being able to offer the space seems like a key element in that.
Yeah, I think that just being, and also I think it's really important that because I've been working a little bit with Skånes Dansteater in other capacities, as I said, that it was also thinking about how the institution itself can be open as an institution to the community who maybe don't necessarily know we're here or might not feel that they could come here somehow. So what kind of ways can we also open that space, and also how do we open this the people that work in the building also to think about the queer community and think, we work in a very queer kind of art form, culture anyway. But it's like the institution, an institution, but has a persona somehow, I guess. And it was like, how might we just chip away at that a little bit? And so opening doors, it feels very important. And that thing that you say, going backwards and forwards and opening the space to people was really, really important, and a shared space. And I think that's what I missed from, or what I felt World Pride, that there wasn't enough shared space, although we couldn't have a shared space.
There was a pandemic as well.
There was a pandemic.
Yeah.
And so I think I was heavily informed, my beginning experience here, of where are those spaces? The only queer bar shut down during the pandemic. And it's amazing, like what you're doing with Club Mermaid, about finding these places to create spaces for the community is so important. And it's so this project has been going over a long period of time, thinking about it, and it's been really exciting to see these other spaces happening at the same time, and this a vibe starting to grow. It's really lovely.
And on that note, Club Mermaid, obviously coming from a different angle, like how did you arrive there? What was the impulse to start up your own club night?
Well, there's a long version and a short version, but I'm an actor originally, and I lived in London for a really long time doing more sort of conventional, I guess, kind of performance and plays and stuff like that. And then I had to move back home during the pandemic, and I'm not from Malmö originally. I'm from Stockholm. I hate to say it. I'm a big MFF fan. I've completely converted. If I could not be from Stockholm, well. Exactly. I'm fully Malmö wannabe. But no. So I went back to Stockholm, and I was like 26, and I moved in with my mum. And I was just going through a really, really hard time, like a lot of people during the pandemic. And then I started working in a care home for older people as like a COVID kind of resource person. And it was really hard and quite dark, I really, really saw the pandemic. And during that time, I mean, I had been in a cabaret when I was like 18, and there were drag queens and stuff, but I hadn't really been involved with that type of queer performance before. But then I also got COVID, and I was just like isolated and living at my mum's, and everything was so depressing. And I had watched a bit of RuPaul's Drag Race before, but I became like completely obsessed because I was just like by myself in this room. And I just I can't explain it, but something in me, I can't explain it better than that. I just felt like these are my people. Like I have to be involved in it. Like this is my people, and so I became completely obsessed. Like New Year's Eve that year, I was like by myself at home watching a live stream from America, drinking all these like energy drinks that I then turned out I was kind of allergic to, so I had like a really bad like reaction. But I was just by myself up all night watching this live stream. My friends were like, off doing something. I was just by myself, and it was like one of the best New Year's Eves I've ever had. And then I was like, well, how do I get involved? So I actually did like a Convox nail technician course. I was like, I need a backup. You can't be an actor. What am I going to do? But I didn't want to do like just, you know, normal nails at a salon. I was like, I want to do drag nails. So I contacted just about every queen that I could find, not just in Stockholm, but like all over the world. Like I sent nails to the UK, I sent nails to America, I sent them everywhere. And just like, here you go for free, just take them. I just want to be a part of this. And so then I kind of became involved in the drag scene in Stockholm. And Vanity Vane, who's well known from Drag Race, kind of was really lovely and brought me on to some events, and she wore my nails, and I did a nail course with another Stockholm queen, Lavender Whip, who had like a private lesson with me and stuff. So I got really involved, and then I was always going to go back to London, but then I was that summer I fell in love with someone from Malmö. I moved to Malmö, like kind of out of the blue. And realised that it wasn't Sweden that was the problem, because for a really long time I thought I didn't like Sweden. But I realised it was just Stockholm that was the problem. And I completely fell in love with Malmö. And I was just, like, speaking of community, it's just like a whole other atmosphere. At least that's my experience. I can't speak to everyone's experience, but that's what it's been like for me. And then I had this dream, which is still my dream, that I'm manifesting, that one day I'll have like my own drag theatre, which will be both like more of a conventional kind of theatre space, but also like a drag bar and like a gay queer club. But you could also have different events. And I was talking to a friend of mine about this very big dream. And she was like, why don't you start with a club night? And I was like, why don't I? And then this is Malmö. I was like, you know, talking to people, and I was like a real outsider coming from Stockholm as well. Like, that's the worst. And but people were so supportive. I was like, I want to start like a drag show. And they were like, oh my God, that's great. You should talk to this person and do that and that and that. And then Qunt gave us, which is a bar in Malmö, they gave us one Thursday a month. And just gave it to us. And then, like you said in the introduction, we kind of just exploded, because I think the need was so big.
Yeah.
People were really craving this. And I think we're also kind of lucky in terms of, I don't know, us just coming out of the pandemic and it kind of opening up. And then Drag Race Sweden happened, and, you know, suddenly everyone was talking about drag. So we also were really, really lucky in that sense. And yeah. Here we are. It's crazy.
Amazing. From nails to
Yes,
to
yes.
taking over the world.
You mentioned, you said a couple of times as you were talking, this idea of like conventional theatre, and
Yes.
And we're going to be talking a lot about queer culture and performance today. And this is a huge, impossible question.
Right.
But like, what is queer culture for you? Like, what is that? And I don't expect an academic definition. I don't expect a totally comprehensive definition. But like, from your perspective, what does queer culture bring to mind?
I think for me, I mean, I don't know if I'm the right person to answer this, but I guess because you talked about conventional theatre, I think for me, I think the UK has a really beautiful theatre scene, and there's some amazing, you know, things happening in Sweden as well. But I find a lot of the time when I go to sort of conventional theatre, like you see a play, it's very stiff, and they always have this like Swedish theatre voice, and you don't quite believe them, and everyone is so serious, and you know the audience take themselves seriously, and the performers and it's just so. And for me, drag is so free, you know, it can be anything, and it can be so absolutely ridiculously silly, but it can also be extremely heavy and impactful and say so much with so little, and it's just so much bigger and freer. And for me, I just find it much more inspiring, if you will, than a sort of conventional, because you can kind of do anything.
Yeah, there's a freedom.
Yeah.
There's an irreverence, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like, and playing with.
And it
different
feels
forms
authentic.
and-
It doesn't feel as like, even if someone's, you know, even if it's, you know, someone with like a dildo. I have La Marquois, shout out to La Marquois, who helps out and is the heart and soul of Club Mermaid. She has a number which she's like a singing dildo, and it's like this dildo, like, and she has the mouth and it moves and stuff. And you know, it's but it's so authentic. It still says, I don't know, it still feels real. And to me, that's more real than a lot of the things you see like up on stage when they're super serious, because there's a heart to it, and there's like something authentic and genuine and just crazy fun about it. You know what I mean?
It's also, and like you mentioned, sometimes it is heavy, sometimes it is political, but it's, I think, the queer community has been very good over the years of doing serious subjects with a sense of humour.
Exactly.
Like just even the chants at a pride protest, they're cutting but funny.
Yeah, it can be, that's what I mean, it can be like everything all at once.
Yeah. And Gwyn, do you have anything to add to this?
I guess so. I think the word queer is kind of an interesting one for me. I'm of a certain age where growing up in the UK, being called queer was really derogatory. It was really problematic when I was growing up. So, and this embracing of the word queer by the community, the younger community now, it's kind of been a really interesting experience for me, because I'm a gay man, but then this celebration or this recognition of it, not just about sexuality, but about these other things, about activism or about kind of playing with convention. This word is great. So, you know, it's like, and these things, and I think that thing of being an artist, living outside of convention, but being a gay man, and I don't think I live my life necessarily in a conventional gay man's life as such. You know, me and my husband, whilst we are married, that's very perhaps conventional now in gay world. But you know, we travel a lot, or I'm traveling a lot. So. But it's made me think an awful lot about what it means, what queer means for me as a 46-year-old man. And in some of the interviews I've had for Indigo Flamingo, talking to older gay men, this word around queer is really, really interesting. And I'm sort of in this thinking about what queer culture is for me personally, not within the context of the work that we're making, but also for me and the generation above me as gay men. And I think actually that it's all a bit queer. You know, even the conventional gay is a bit queer. You know, we think of like, you know, the gay men with their white picket fence and the, you know, adopted 2 children, and we go, oh, that's really conventional. But it's still not conventional. It's still pushing against the heteronorms in a way. You know, it's still pushing those kids who grow up with 2 gay parents, whether lesbian or gay men. They grow up not in the norm. So they're pushing the boundaries of what normal culture is, I think, and so it's sort of just recognizing that we're all in this kind of queer community together, and labels and words and stuff like this, it sort of allows us to kind of, we can either be in it or we can push against it, but that's okay within the whole community, that we can have that tussle between us as well with that. And then when we come to culture, again, I can only speak for myself, and you know, I think it's, yeah, and as an artist as well, I think my idea of being a queer artist is kind of recent. I guess I've been maybe in this conventional contemporary dancer mode, where probably playing many more kind of straight roles or weird straight roles than kind of leaning into my homosexuality or my queerness somehow. And even as a maker, I've sort of vied away from it actually. And so, yeah, I think I'm on quite a personal journey around queer culture for myself as a middle-aged white gay man, you know, cis gay, you know, it's like there's a whole thing going on actually. And so, yeah, and maybe, you know, Indigo Flamingo is also is partly my personal journey in a way in there.
Beautiful. I love that, connecting the personal with the broader community aspect. And yeah, as you're giving people kind of voices and things, you're also finding yours through it.
Yeah.
Very nice. So you've both been looking at Malmö's queer history. In a way, you're producing a day of events kind of around, well, also present and future, so the whole timeline.
Yes.
And Gwyn, obviously, Indigo Flamingo is based on Malmö's queer history. What do you think is the importance of considering our history? Like, we could just go from where we are and keep moving forward step by step, but what do you think is the importance of looking back?
Well, I think it's really interesting, the fact, I mean, it's like any history, I guess. You can't talk about the present without, you know, also talking about the history, because it's so linked together. But it is interesting. I know someone that we've both been in touch with, Lars Hector, who used to run Trocadero. Like, now that we don't have a gay bar in Malmö, it's interesting to talk about, and I think important to talk about, that there used to be not just one, but several,
yeah.
you know, and what that was like, and what it was like for them to run it, and what happened, and the challenges, and but also not just the challenges, and that it's sad that we don't have it anymore, but also to celebrate all those people and all that. Because I think, I mean, from what I think, what I have found so beautiful and so rewarding, and the most important thing, and what I'm mostly proud of with Club Mermaid, I think, is that we have managed to really build a community and like a sort of big mermaid family, hence the Mother Mermaid, because I was so scared coming from the outside in many ways, and coming to a new place and starting something, and you like I said, you want it to feel authentic and part of people's lives and stuff, and that's so beautiful that I feel like we have managed to create that. And you know, we always, if we don't sell out, we always sell a lot of tickets, because the loyal, like, you know, real family members, they're going to show up and show out for us. And I think what I've thought a lot about them, because we have a lot of queer kids that I think would use that definition, who are maybe, you know, late teens or early 20s. And I think for them, I've thought a lot about them when I've produced this local day, to show them that they're not alone, that they're not the first queer people here, do you know what I mean? To show them that there is a huge sort of history and community behind them who've been here for a long time, and also to show the people that used to be here and that ran these places, how much they still matter. And when I've had interviews, and I'm sure you'd say the same, people remember them so well, and remember these places, and you know, not just the big ones, but I mean Trocadero and Vonk and lots of, but also, you know, places that maybe like Tomboy, for example, that didn't even have their own venue, but they're still so remembered. And you know, I've tried to find everyone, and it's been a bit of a detective work, but everyone is still so linked together, and it's my dream to kind of connect the two, and to make everyone feel less alone, and to create like a bigger community, I don't know, a bigger family, if you will, you know.
Family, yeah.
There's something about similar experiences in some ways, that, you know, we've come from the outside, and the queer community is where our community is, and there's a lot of people who arrive into a new place, and they land in with their new family, their queer family, from being outside, and I think it's so important that it's really visible, like to those young kids who are coming through now, you know, that are in their late teens, or they're like there is something that exists for them, and there are people in the community that have been around for a while, or that it's been around, you know, we've been here, but it's also visible for people who do come to to Malmö, and also, you know, for meeting. We've met in our research. We went to RFSL newcomers, and it's like that element of the community, and that visibility that's so important to queer refugees or asylum seekers, and having that place to meet and come to, and then finding a way of opening up that we can all kind of join together and share it. And one of the things in the interviews that I've had, the thing that really stands out most for me, is this need for places to meet, a place to meet, and it's having multiple places that are for different people. So like Club Mermaid perhaps isn't something for a 46-year-old or a 58, or maybe it is. I mean, maybe I need to go clubbing.
Try it.
But also having these other spaces that loss of somewhere that we can just go and have a coffee together in a really safe space, where we can meet older people in the community or younger people in the community. Because for me, it was one of the conversations that I've had was with Lars as well, and it was this speaking to a gay man who is older than me and has lived through the AIDS crisis, who is living life as an older gay man, and there aren't that many around, and going, what's it like as a younger gay man? What's it like to be older? You know, and because I don't know what that is. So being able to see people who we will become, hopefully, you know, and their stories, and you know that it's so important. And I think that these places that hopefully that we're creating, ours is pretty temporary, but it's also, we have gathered a community, actually, a place for people to meet. But you know that there's a place for sharing and a place for convening and supporting and gathering, and yeah.
And you've been mentioning the word family a lot, both of you. And I think it's very interesting because in a way, I guess as a queer person, you're not necessarily born to queer parents, or you know, a part of that family dynamic, that way you learn about what is it going to be like for me when I'm older, what was it like for someone like me earlier, what's my identity based on that history. It does get passed down in a different way. You have to meet other LGBTQIA plus people. I won't just use the word queer the whole time. And so that kind of sharing, that inheritance is very important.
And I think I also want to say, like, I am so incredibly grateful, and we wouldn't be where we are if it weren't for also not just the, you know, the people in the 70s or 80s or 90s or early 2000s, but the people who are creating, like Rania Asari, for example, who does Garpa Garage, and I know did the Voguing workshop with you, and Gina 040, who's a DJ and also a queer club night arranger, and I mean, there's so many people I would like to say my thanks to, but you know, being embraced by also not just the community, but the other producers and arrangers and people, and to welcome me into that, and to give me the kind of chance to provide a platform and a stage and a space, and yeah, because they could have very much, you know, not opened that up and been very suspicious of me, right, and rightly so, you know. So I think, yeah, and that also, you know, breeds the next thing. It kind of it becomes like a good circle, if you may, you know, that if you're opening and welcoming, then you can show the next generation and the next people who move in, or you know, and it becomes a community. And now, you know, me and Rania, for example, we collaborate a lot and we do things together, rather than feeling, you know, like you're competing. You can help each other, and you can, and I think that is also really, really valuable.
Absolutely. So I'll move on a little bit from this discussion. I think we've kind of mentioned a few of the themes that have been coming up in your research. Maybe the need for a space, this sense of history we've talked about. I wonder if Gwyn, like from your interviews, like what are some of these kind of key themes that keep cropping up from the conversations you've had that we're now working with in Indigo Flamingo?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this idea of a space, place to be and meet has really has been really important. I think one of the things for me that stood out was that they were all voluntary. So everyone, apart from Lars, that was an active kind of going out to meet this person. They were all participants in the workshops, and so every time we had a workshop, we would invite whoever would like. And predominantly, it was to start with, it was gay men that were putting themselves forward. And I was like, where are all the women, or where are all the particularly where are the lesbians? And it was sort of, but people were coming. and we had, you know, people across the whole rainbow family were coming to the workshops. But and I was like, oh, what is this? And I wondered and I was questioning whether it was me being a gay man, that I was a bit blinded somehow by, you know, oh, I'm just sort of pursuing the people who I'm connecting with, you know, who I identify most closely with. And then so I had a really, really beautiful, incredible conversation with someone who a lesbian woman who put herself forward for the interview, and we talked a lot about that. And one of the things for me was this people's experiences about, that I don't know about. Everyone shared something which was like, oh my God, wow, but particularly from her perspective of how she lives in this male-dominated world, the patriarchal world, and talking about female-only spaces or female queer spaces. And then one example that she gave was these two guys walked into this space, and the atmosphere just completely changed. And then they were asked politely to leave, and they did so. And then suddenly the atmosphere went back, and it was just this sort of revelation for me about the experience of women and living through the male gaze all the time, and how that, how I don't have that experience. But it was so important for me to hear that experience. So not these stories of just these like historical spaces or these things, but also like really real stories of like what people are experiencing that are a way of connecting each other through the community. And I say the whole community in that we somehow finding a place, yes, have only female only spaces, or, you know, queer women only spaces, but also being able to go, how do we, also as gay men, find a place where we can open the spaces that become a bit safer or feel more comfortable, or, you know, so it's like those it's rooted in those stories of those individual experiences that maybe somehow we can share more, to be able to kind of, to bolster ourselves, to support each other, to find ways of coming together more somehow.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much. I mean, the rainbow umbrella, the LGBTQIA plus spectrum, it includes such a range of identities that I can't, that I have no experience of, and that in order to be one community or to stand up for each other, we need to kind of get this sort of understanding, with the knowledge that it's not my experience, but that I can hear yours, maybe.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I know when you introduced that story into the space, and we have some women in the group, and they connected with it immediately. They were like, yes, I know exactly what she's talking about. Whereas we maybe were a bit more secondhand, kind of looking at it from a distance.
Yeah.
But I think that's so important, like, especially I feel that responsibility a lot as a producer to give way and be quiet and hear other perspectives and stories. And because I once had, after a show, I had a very drunk cis woman come up to me and a friend of mine who's trans, and this woman came up to me and was like, oh my God, how are you a cis woman in drag, and how can you I also want to do this, and then she just turned to my friend and was like, you're such a beautiful man. And they just went, I'm not a man, and they just went on. And to be fair, you know, she was really drunk and everything, but I was just like, I think the first thing is just to step back and listen. You know, because you're walking in with a lot of feelings and emotions and what you want to do and but actually maybe what you should do is come in and offer a platform, a space, and then you know, give that person, like you did with finding a lesbian perspective, and then let her tell her story, you know. And I think that's really important that we do as sort of producers or choreographers or people that hold a space to, because we can't have every perspective, we can't know everything, but what we can do is open up for someone who does have that perspective to talk and to do their thing and to be creative and tell their stories or perform their art or, you know, whatever it is. And, you know, no bad feelings towards this woman. She was really drunk and I think she had every good intention, but it was just so absurdly clear to me that she was really passionate about doing this. And the problem wasn't her being a cis woman. The problem was not giving space and just coming into something and assuming genders or just grabbing a space of something where maybe she should have taken a step back and listened, you know what I mean? So I think that's really important to do for all of us, and that's how we create community, because we will have different opinions or different experiences or coming from different perspectives, but if we can kind of hold a space for each other and let everyone tell their stories, then we can understand each other better as well.
Yeah, and I think it's so important right now where, you know, it sort of feels like it's on its way here to Sweden. Maybe it's already here a little bit, but you know, this, I mean, it's certainly, you know, my experience is so informed by the UK, and where, you know, this anti-trans movement that's so prevalent in the UK, you know, it's really coming over from the US, and it's coming over, it's in the UK, and it's so toxic and it's so dangerous and it's so scary. And there's sort of a wedge being put, but right through the, you know, the rainbow family that that we keep talking about, and it feels really fragile and vulnerable right now. And one of the things that we've talked a little bit about in Indigo Flamingo is about the things that we've learned from the past about the gay liberation movement that Lars was very much part of, you know, in the early 70s. What can we learn about that, about gathering a community together, and what can we take from that as a community to support the parts of the community that are really being targeted right now, both politically, physically, with violence, with, you know, it's like, I think it's, but we can only do that by hearing and listening to what people's experiences are, and not talking over it and going, I'm the man in the room, I know, I've got my opinion and I'm going to say it before everyone else. And you know, it's so important right now. It feels that we're at really quite a crucial moment, and we need to be together.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that aspect of listening and hearing the stories, like some very obvious examples with the example of kind of transphobic politics, is, you know, learning about the arguments that were used against gay people in the past, feeling very familiar sometimes, and also learning about I had something. Yeah, also the history of trans people's role in the movement, in starting the Pride movement in many ways. So I think that brings us back to the importance of history. I guess.
Exactly.
So you've touched on one of the stories there that you've gathered, and there's many others, and they're all influencing the performance that will be presented, Indigo Flamingo. Could you talk a little bit about how this research, how these stories are manifesting in the performance? Like, is it a documentary? Are there these people in the performance? Like, how is it working? I do know the answers. I realize I'm asking them like I don't know the answers. But
As any good journalist would.
And Kit has a very deep inside knowledge of this process, because we've spent the whole day rehearsing together. So, the conversations that I've had with I think it's 11 or 12 people, you know, had really deep conversations, and people have been so generous and open about their experiences, and really interested in this project, and the conversations that I'd sort of formulated a series of questions so that each conversation would have a similar structure, that would sort of touch on similar themes about people's history in Malmö as a queer person, and then we sort of deviated off. So I have these 11 or 12 interviews, and some of those, in some of the interviews, or all of them, I asked a couple of quick questions, like, what's your favourite piece of music to dance to? What's your favourite item of clothing to dance to when you used to go out clubbing or when you go out clubbing? What are the people or the memories that you have from, what's the person that, or what encounter do you remember the most? And, these sort of sparked off quite big conversations, actually, or quite big topics. And some of those, for instance, the costumes, Maya, the costume designer, has taken some of those, and we've built some of the ideas for the costumes out of that. We have a costume rail in the studio when we're working of some items that have been specifically selected based on those things, like a crochet jumper by one of the people who was interviewed, and various other things. And so the set list, some of that is compiled by these choices from the community, from the conversations. And then the stories themselves. So it was really important for me that each of the dancer has been working with one particular person that we interviewed. And we've kind of moved away from those a little bit. We've abstracted some particular themes or a particular moment or a few particular stories out of it, or experiences, and that have sort of started to formulate a distance from those individual people, where those kind of stories kind of converge in the space with each other, and sort of in sometimes quite chaotic ways, in sometimes very camp ways, which is amazing and fabulous, and some very cliched ways, which we had page 28 doing a few readings on Sunday, and one of the writers, Yil, she was talking about cliche in queer writing, and I'm like, we are so in cliche land with Indigo Flamingo, but it really helps so much with like this connecting us to a common experience somehow, which is doing a lot of work for us, whether it's music or whether it's dance styles or so we've been abstracting some of these particular moments or particular experiences for each of the dancers, and they're kind of coming back into the space, and they're developing sort of a persona or an alter ego that kind of will interact with the audience. We're using archive footage. Yeah, so one of the dances is, can I share this now? I really want to share it.
Share it.
Share it.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Yeah, exactly. So in Trocadero, which I'm sure you've seen the film, right, on the website. So there's a bit with Anita Lindblom, and there's, you can have him, but so we've recreated this. And so we will have the film projected whilst it's being performed, and the audience might participate in this moment too. And it's and there's other footage that that we hope to bring in, and maybe some things around the different elements of stories. So one of the people that I interviewed grew up in the 80s and the 90s within, talking about Malmö, the sort of deindustrialization of Malmö and the kind of impact on society around him at the time, growing up in the beginning, in the AIDS crisis, and sort of how that sort of tainted this opening up, or this sort of more tolerance, shall I say, of gay and lesbians. I'm not going to say others, because it wasn't at that time, and how that all pushed it back a bit, So that's all in there in some ways, and it's adding we've got lots of layers in the work, whether it's from these stories, or it's the music, or it's elements of costume, or it's something, a pair of shoes is playing a particular part, So there's different. Yeah, and the way the space is also configured, we've taken some ideas from Trocadero, we've taken some ideas from the way people described Club Indigo, and also Fyran, and so and so there are just little touches here and there of those things, And also, I mean, from the footage that you've seen of Trocadero, and then we've seen some more footage today of Club Indigo, which, this sort of rawness about everything, and that's the way we're kind of creating the space. And so there is this raw sort of make-do type thing, this kind of like put it together and the appreciation for that,
Yeah.
that it's here, that we're doing it, and it's right on our doorstep. It's on this little stage that's like wobbling and things. So all those little elements of this like nods to the histories that we're all thinking about. It's
Oh my God, it sounds amazing. And I also just have to say, I realised, speaking of history and the connection between the present and the past, because I mentioned that Club Mermaid, we were born at Grand, but Grand used to be Indigo.
Indigo.
Used to be Indigo, yeah. So
And
Indigo was a very, for anyone who doesn't know, Indigo
we're getting really nerdy,
Yeah.
actually.
nerdy about Malmö's queer history. Indigo was a very influential and, I would say, beloved.
Absolutely.
A beloved
Yeah.
LGBTQIA plus club in the, well, it was kind of 90s to
It's actually 80s. It sort of took
okay.
over. It was in a bit of competition with Club Trocadero.
Oh gosh,
Trocan.
dramatic story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it was.
But also later, right?
Yeah, it went on for a long
A
time.
long time, yeah, because a
it's
lot
true.
of people
Yeah,
talk
a lot
about
of people.
Indigo and,
Yeah, and there
and
were
have
these
been there at different times, and sometimes
Yeah.
quite different age groups
Yeah.
who talk about Indigo. And
It's true.
And also the photo that I had taken of me for the hedge, for the magazine, is also in Grand.
Yeah.
So it's just like it was, would anyone even notice anymore? But it's like just
Yeah.
it's really important that it was there, It's sort of,
Yeah, it was so funny because I had no idea when we started at Grand, and then we had a year ago, I think, we had a night that we called Icons and Legends, and then we invited Elektra or Jonna and Robin Werner, who
very big in the drag scene.
very big in the drag scene, known
Sweden.
from Melodifestivalen and everything, but that started and did it like they had Cabaret Milan, who was part of Indigo, and they performed a lot, and they were the ones that, so it was a really beautiful kind of full circle moment to have them there talk about that whilst we were sort of starting this new kind of chapter. And so it was kind of, a bit cosmic that we were born at Grand as well.
aligned.
Yeah, stars aligned.
Yeah. So we've mentioned a lot of elements of the performance now, and because we're currently in a creative process where they're very much swirling around us. So for the audience member who would like to come to Indigo Flamingo and maybe doesn't know quite what to expect, because it's not quite a performance, it's not quite a club, it's something else.
Yeah.
How should they arrive? What should they expect? How should they engage with it?
How should they engage with it? So I think the most important thing is that we say it's interactive. It's interactive in a very, very gentle way, and there is absolutely choice about how much interaction people can have. So, and we're also starting to talk a little bit in the studio about how to recognize audience members who maybe don't want to have attention paid towards them. So maybe allowing them to just be in the space and soak up the atmosphere a little bit from the outside, but also there will be some audience who would like to participate in the Anita Lindblom, you can have him dance. They might learn a bit of choreography within the show that they get to perform with the dancers, for instance, or just to dance it. There might be other opportunities to dance a little bit. This idea that the stories or these memories or ideas come out of the dance floor. So there are moments where the audience can really just sit back, or they can lounge on the staging that's around and just watch these stories bubble away out of the set, out from the dancers and out of these stories that we've been working with, and then being invited back in to either dance a little bit to some like 1980s classic, and then to be able to sit back and watch a bit more, or to be super active all the way through. And I really want my practice maybe, or my curiosity as a choreographer, is about how audiences can experience dance also through their body, not just through their eyes as well. But at the same time, so the dancers are doing some extraordinary, extraordinary things, whilst at the same time, maybe the audience are still in a sense of flow or a little bit of we've got some really good music, which really, really helps.
That definitely
really
helps.
does help.
Yeah, come just for the great playlist.
It is amazing.
Which it goes all across the eras.
Yeah, I'll say one more thing because I've not really mentioned Sophia yet. So DJ Qunt, which is really hard for me to say, still, Sophia Sudagård, will host the evening, which is kind of inspired a little bit of Lars. This idea of like creating that
Lars Hector,
Trocadero. And then we'll also kind of guide the audience in and out of what's kind of going on. So the idea is that people are not, the audience are not left to kind of go, oh, what's going on? That they're really, again, in a way, we're going to create a family within the performance, right? So, and there'll be
ambitions.
Yes, small ambitions. 125 people become one family for a night. And then there will be, and then what would be lovely is that the audience then get to inhabit or to get to take over the Club Indigo, Indigo Flamingo, and that's, it sort of becomes a bit more of an open space then, where people can just dance to some wicked music. Wicked? Can we still say wicked? That's really old.
People still said that one.
Do they? They still said it when you lived in London. Good. Okay.
So we actually really don't have very much time left. We are running out. Wow. I have maybe one last question for you, Jonna. Because we haven't really touched on the future. I wanted to do past, present,
I wanted
and
to
future.
know what the plan is.
So, like we've had a little lay of the land a bit in terms of what's happening in Malmö and the past and everything, but what would you like to see for the queer scene in the future? What do you feel like the queer scene needs here?
Well, I have a short answer, which is a teaser for the 3rd of July, because we're actually doing a panel series on queer nightlife, past, present and future. And so we've invited people, some important figures within the community, to talk about the past and the present and the future. But personally, I think it's a lot. It's so boring to say, but it's a lot about money and opportunities, because there are so many brilliant queer producers or arrangers and artists, but we need spaces, we need venues, we need funding. And I think Club Mermaid has been extremely lucky compared to a lot of other organisations in actually getting some funding for the first time for this autumn. And Qunt are amazing, and they help us out and give us a good deal so that we can exist. But I feel like we talked about spaces before, like having and I think page 28 is that in some ways.
Page 28 is a bookshop here in Malmö, but also a community space who run a lot of events. Yeah.
Exactly, and they do amazing work, and they have a space where you can, it's a bookshop, but it is very small, and it would be nice if you could have a drink or two or something, so I think, I think priority should be to fund the people that are here and that want to do work. Another person is Pierre, who works with the Isle House, for example, and trying to create a space, a big queer gathering space and stuff. But it's always the thing about funding and how to make it all work and stuff. And so I think rather than people outside thinking that you need to create like a gay or a queer scene, it's just like funding and investing in the people that are already doing it, And I feel like, as we have a few drag performers that had maybe their first or second show with us, and I love them so much, and now they're touring like all over Sweden. And that's what happens when you invest in people or in an art form or in a community. Like, it flourishes, it grows, And so I think that's what needs to happen with the queer community in Malmö, because it's already doing so much when it has so little. There's lots of pop-up events and things like that, and different organisation and initiatives and everything, too many to mention all here. But but they need a space and they need money and
Absolutely.
they need to be let to flourish.
Yeah. And of course, you're going to have your theatre with drag performances
Exactly.
and conventional theatre.
Manifesting it right here.
Manifest. Yeah, so that really is all we've got time for. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a fascinating conversation for me.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you to the audience for joining us too. And you can come to Indigo Flamingo between the 3rd to the 11th of July. You can come to Malmö Pride between the 3rd to the 6th of July. Club Mermaid will also be at during that week at Qunt on the 5th of July.
Exactly.
the
We
Friday.
have a Pride special.
Yep, and
gonna
if
be
you want to
amazing.
catch some of the events you were talking about,
Yes.
talking about past, present and future, that's on the 3rd of July.
Wow,
so it's a lot
many
of
dates,
dates.
Kit. Well done.
I know,
Yes.
but not very helpful for communicating.
Get your
so
calendars out.
Yeah.
It's all online, I'm sure. They can find it.
rewind and write it down. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
The awkward bit.